that would I say it's surprising or it's funny? Because when I first heard the swearing the governor yesterday without a deputy and I saw it on TV, first of all I just chuckled and then I sat down for a moment and I thought about it. It's never happened ever in the history of Nigeria.
It has never happened.
The governor is sworn in without a deputy. That's number one. Number two, Kogi has always been on the news. You know what happened to Audu Abubakar a day after the election.
It has also never happened. It has also never happened that the governor, the candidate died a day after the election.
So I'm particular about the swearing in of the governor yesterday without his deputy. The deputy was claiming that he wasn't invited.
No,
which other invitation would he?
No, the deputy was not saying he wasn't invited. The deputy he declined
to become part of that.
On the paper,
he said he was the right person to be sworn.
To be sworn in. Invited maybe as a guest, not to be sworn in as a deputy governor, because he has made his stand clear. After the death of late Audu, he said he's the person that should be sworn that should take over from Audu. Now, he's also claiming two things. One, that INEC should not have even declared that election inconclusive, because as at the time, but every parameter shows the election has been concluded. So INEC declared that election inconclusive was an aberration. So he has that case. And then he also had the case that, okay, should even the election become inconclusive, it was a joint ticket. When one person is out of the ticket, the other continues. So for APC to go and bring Yaya Bello, that never campaigned or anything, into the free.
But he was in the primaries, he came second.
That is the primaries. Primaries are over. Okay. Now we're in electioneering. That is his own claim.
Maybe they feel that the next person should take over since he's the second.
Exactly. That was APC's valid position, which for me is valid. And as I said, it has to take the courts really to interpret.
Alex Abiyokox, we had gone round and round this Kogi issue, but from what happened yesterday, from the swearing in of the present governor, Faleke was absent from it. Faleke already occupies a position in Lagos State, we all know. Do you think, like, I'm a bit skeptical on how this might play out at the end of it all. I really don't know on which side of the divide this might fall. I don't know if at the end of the day, the present governor might get another deputy, or Faleke might still come back, return to be his deputy. So I think the
position is clear. Faleke has declared to be deputy governor. That is obviously. So even if the court upheld Yaya Bello as the duly elected governor of the state, he'll pick a deputy. So Faleke has a job that is not threatened, because being a member of the House of Representatives representing Lagos, he is already have a job. Now he could only have resigned after the election. Okay. You know, he has the luxury of contesting that election while still keeping his seat, because he's an elected official. If he was an appointed official, he would have resigned before contesting the election. But as an elected official, the constitution allows him to retain his position. So he has to use his hand to resign. So but he has not done that. So he still has a job in National Assembly. So even if he lost out at Kogi of being the deputy governor, he still has a job that he's doing for the people of Lagos. So
imagine if there was no job he was doing for the people of Lagos.
He will have taken the deputy governorship.
I'm moving over to the Punch newspaper. There's several headlines here, but I'm starting with the one on the Senate president. It says Saraki keeps mum as Obasanjo attacks National Assembly members. That's on page 2. The Senate president keeps mum as Obasanjo attacks National Assembly members. Although the constituency allowance is paid to all members of the National Assembly, many of them have no constituency offices. Pictures on the Punch newspaper showing the Kogi State new governor Yahaya Bello. Other stories on the Punch newspaper. This is on page 9, and it says suicide bombers attack Chibok, kills 14. That's on page 9 of the Punch newspaper. Suicide bombers attack Chibok, kill 14. Supreme Court overturns appeal court's ruling, upholds WIKE'S elections. That's on page 3. Obiagbena released after hours in EFCC court study. That's very impressive. That's on page 3 of the Punch newspaper. Jonathan ex-aide Gulak declares self-PDP chair. That's on page 2. Jonathan's ex-aide is declaring himself PDP chair. Oil magnate Jide Omokore at EFCC office again. That's on page 9. Oil magnate Jide Omokore is at EFCC office again. I won't speak on arms scandal now, says Jonathan. That's on page 9. Metu's firm had 6.6 million naira balance before Dasuki's 400 million naira. That's coming from the EFCC, and that's on page 4. I'd quickly want to talk about the ex-president Olusegun Obasanjo. He's always been in the news as well. He's always been so relevant even after power. But he's visited the National Assembly, and Saraki's saying, okay, I'll keep mum over for it. And then the Speaker of the National Assembly released a statement yesterday that he should focus on other activities and leave the issues of governance alone. But I don't really have which sources said that. The former president did say that he's still very relevant in all of the issues that include governance in Nigeria, and he'll still be part of it. But do you think that we're doing it the right way, we're getting it right in terms of the former president trying to interfere with issues of governance, sending lots and different kinds of letters and messages to, different government agencies?
Morally, no. Legally, yes. He has a constitutional right to speak as a Nigerian, as a part of state. He has a constitutional right to speak, to interfere in national politics, to advise, to criticize, to condemn. We are all doing legally, yes. But morally, does ex-President Obasanjo have the moral capital? The answer is no. He had the single opportunity of straightening this country
for 8 years.
For 8 years. Did he succeed? Well, it depends on the side of where you belong to. Some of the issues today, I see the bigger grasp I have against ex-President Obasanjo is the fact that he didn't give us a sound democratic culture, which Nelson Mandela did. He was too ambitious for his own personal aggrandizement that he gave us a faulty electoral process. Maybe when we come to the last election, I might expatiate on that. So he gave us a faulty electoral process. This man signed, the first electoral law he signed in 2002. December 6, 2002. That was my birthday, and it got stuck to me because that was one of the most criminal electoral acts anybody could ever sign. And ex-President signed it on my birthday. In fact, because of my birthday, that's why I felt so bad about it. That electoral act was being debated by the whole country was at God with some of the provisions, and I was beating my chest that President Obasanjo, as an elder statesman, cannot sign that act.
Alex, you sound very passionate about what you're talking about now.
Very, very passionate.
But if you're looking at it from the other side of the divide, we've had several past presidents, yes. Obasanjo, President Jonathan. Does it mean, or should I say, it's because this administration is taking over from the previous administration? That's why ex-President Obasanjo's ill-doing, so to speak, shortcomings are not really expressed on the floor. Or let's say it's going on rank and file. It doesn't seem like the searchlight is really on the ex-president Olusegun Obasanjo.
No, you don't need to. Well, if there is corrupt tendencies about his government, this government is fighting corruption. It's focused on corruptions. If there's any corrupt tendency about it, by the time they get to his time, you see, you don't open the book from the ground. When you want to read a book, you don't read from the back. You read from top to bottom. Now, his 8 years is coming behind.
Okay.
So what we're having now is you give me a book to start reading. I'll be very stupid to now go to the back to start reading it from the back. I will read from front, from top, and I'm going. So gradually they will get to, if there is any.
Okay, you feel they will also get to him.
They might even get beyond him if this government pursues this corruption issue. I'm not even talking about corruption now. I'm talking about morality and his actions. Now, when he was in National Assembly, what did he do about National Assembly? He was either hoodwinking them. He was not creating that structure that should be there. He was personalizing every governance. He single-handedly wanted to stop Atiku from running an election using the same National Assembly. Several bribe allegations came up of those who want to impeach and all whatnot. He destroyed the AD in the southwest with his capitalistic tendency. He wanted to capture the whole south and become the king. He destroyed AD. Thank God for a person like Bola Ahmed Tinubu who survived, and from there rebuilt the opposition. Today, if not for Bola Ahmed Tinubu, there would not have been any single straw of opposition in our national. Would have become like Zimbabwe.
Alexa, what do you make of the letters? He's been sending several letters. He sent to the National Assembly, and now he's sending to the Senate. And Saraki's keeping mum. Maybe he knows why he's keeping mum. He's not talking in the meantime. But don't you think the what's it called now? The motive of these letters might be personalized to the ex-president. Do you think it's for the interest of Nigeria?
For the interest of Nigeria. Okay. You see, he's been making a lot of good suggestions in the interest of Nigeria.
But a few persons say it's personalized.
No. He has not told to come and pay homage to him. He's not talking about national issues. That's why I say legally he has every right to do what he's doing. Okay. But talking about morality, look, if a late President Mandela woke up and speak in South Africa, nobody, not even his biggest enemy, and our Abattoir will fault it because he has shown character when he was president. He said one time, he did one time, put the structures in place and went to the back, whichever was a person of passion to have done. But he didn't do it, he was personal. So that robbed him of that fatherly, elderly figure, that iconic figure that he would have had that if President has done one term and put in place a sound electoral process, sound democratic culture, instill it in that first year he had, instill it properly. Even if he had a second term, instill it properly. And make sure that election, not what he did in 2007 by say do or die. He brought this do or die thing when he wants to capture everywhere.
I think that's a subject for some
so if he has done that, I tell you, if he speaks, before he picks up his pen to write, everyone will be shifting. But now when he writes, yes, he's saying the truth. But people say, when you were there,
what did you
they will now bring out his bad, the other side of it. So morally, he doesn't have that moral capital. But legally, he has, and he's speaking for Nigeria, sincerely. He's speaking for Nigeria. But does he have the moral to pass it down to everybody? The moral capital is not there.
Okay. Yeah, I have the next paper here, the Nigerian Tribune. And the major headline here says, Obasanjo writes, Saraki Dogara condemns plans to buy 469 cars. You find details on page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune. Boko Haram attacks Chibok, kills 14, injures 24. Details on page 10. Arms deal, Jonathan speaks. You find details on page 7. Supreme Court, Wike wins jubilation in Rivers. Amosu Umehi affirmed Ogun Ebonyi governors. You find details on page 2. Kogi governor sworn in without deputy. You find details on page 5. 5 more bodies discovered under Enugu building. 5 more bodies discovered under Enugu building. You find details on page 4. Supreme Court weekend wins amidst jubilation. What do you think, Mr. WIKE'S, about the Supreme Court's verdict on Rivers State and other governors?
Well, I will call that judgment questionable illegality.
How do you mean questionable illegality?
And I will say very dubious immorality.
How?
Rivers State has been one state. Fortunately, it's my state, and I feel very, very bad. The Supreme Court has helped to save a few lives that would have been lost.
If otherwise was the case.
So they've saved, the Supreme Court has just ended up saving a few lives. But would there be any lesson being learned? The answer is no.
Okay, me don't agree with the judgment.
No, certainly no. Certainly I don't. And sure, even the winners will know that they don't agree with that judgment.
Sorry, the judgment of the Supreme Court upholding
the election.
Yes,
you know the tribunal quashed the election on 2 grounds.
Okay.
Crass violence and malpractices, non-usage of the card reader. Okay. Now it's discovered that Rivers State, let me give you a brief history of Rivers State since 2003. So I have not had a clean election. In fact, Rivers State is one of the states that is, I call Rivers, Rivers, Delta, Akwa Ibom. I call them the axis of electoral evil. They don't have, we don't have electoral democratic culture. We believe in this carry-go thing, writing of results when there's no voting. I have said it in various forums. PDP will have won that election clear.
PDP in Rivers State or PDP
yes,
at the national
in Rivers State.
PDP in Rivers State.
Yes, because the odds was in their favor.
But NYESOM WIKE'S Rivers, it's PDP.
Yeah, I know. But you see, what characterized that election was, you better imagine, over 100 lives were lost. There was no voting apart from.
But it's supposed to be from both ends, both PDP and APC. Loss of lives, election practices.
That's what I'm saying. I'm coming. Just give me a break a little bit. When that election was held, everybody, even the international observers, that apart from parts of Port Harcourt and Obiako, which are the central local government, in other local government, election held, and this has been the case all over all the time. I would have really loved anybody to win an election and win it, not being on any party, on any side of the party. And like I mentioned, PDP had the election under control. They would have won that election because the odds was in their favor. Not because they like Wike, not because for the love of Wike, but for the hatred for Amechi.
Okay.
Now, that's the scenario in Rivers State now. It's not for the love for Wike as a person, but the hatred for Amechi. And it was even turned for the riverine area to produce the governor because the upland has been producing. But because of the love for the hatred for Amechi, they all tilted towards Wike.
Okay.
And they all stood by him, really. But again, Was it a one-man, one vote? And that's how you know. Was it because even at the end of the day, when they say bring the papers, they spend time trying to perfect the whole thing.
All things being equal, that's happened, and now NYESOM WIKE'S election has been upheld.
Yes.
What does this portend for Nigeria's democracy?
No,
for instance, you're looking at the APC and PDP. I was thinking, okay, it was going to go on the other side of the divide, and Amici was going to use federal powers and federal might, but everything just turned around. And yesterday I was speechless.
Yes.
What does this what message does this send to Nigerians in general?
What I'm going to say is this: I don't know what the Supreme Court saw or is seeing that other courts or that the lower courts are not seeing. Now, in history, Supreme Court has never cancelled nullifying an election. Okay. Go back to Shagari. Shagari versus Obafemi Awolowo. Okay. The Supreme Court has to interpret to third of 19 to be 12 instead of 12.66, which would have been 13.
Yeah.
Okay. Supreme Court upheld Shagari's election based on that because Shagari didn't get to third in 13 states. He got to third 25% in 12 states. So Supreme Court never cancelled that election. Even though that election was not properly, but they upheld it. Also, don't forget, even in 1983, this was 79, 1983, Jim Wobo versus Sissiono. Jim Wobo won at the appeal court. Okay. The Supreme Court cancelled it. The same thing to Bolega versus Oluleye in Oyo State.
So does it mean that
the Supreme Court has never nullified it? Look at Muhammad Buhari versus Yaradua. That was the closest the Supreme Court, the closest they've gone to looking at the others. Yes, it was 4-3. 4-3 in favor of Muhammad Buhari. Look at Muhammad Buhari versus Goodluck Jonathan. So the Supreme Court has never.
Should I suffice to say, okay, would you now say there's nothing really spectacular about what happened yesterday?
Nothing, for me, nothing really spectacular because that has been the character of the Supreme Court. So what they are seeing, and generally speaking, it's difficult to prove electoral irregularities at that level because sincerely speaking what they are seeing, and they say they are going to give the reasons on February 12th, but generally what does it protect for Nigeria? It protects the fact that you can disregard INEC regulation, you can kill, you can forge results.
I am particularly interested in this, but I think that's a subject for some other.
No, I'm coming. You can forge results, you can rewrite, because there is no way you can prove it at that level of Supreme Court. So that is the danger. So for me now, going forward is that the Electoral Act, and of course, the reason may not be too different from what the Electoral Act says. So now, the drafters and the workers of the Electoral Act need to really go down to business now, to work the Act, to bring in as much provisions as can be brought in. Maybe give INEC a bigger latitude to regulate, make a process that is bring
more
up bring up more process, because the card reader is the issue here. Let me tell you, the card reader in this case had 292,000 votes.
We really have to take the next paper.
Yes, I'm just let the rush aggregate voters. And meanwhile, WIKE one was 1.1 million voters. Meanwhile, the candidate that is subject that is to be used for accreditation had just 292
I think we should take
votes. So these are the problem.
I think we should take a more detailed look on the Rivers elections because Alex Tabiokot is from Rivers State. Maybe next week Thursday. That's on the other side. But I'm moving on to the nation. There's several headlines here, but I'm starting with this one, which says Bello takes oath as Kogi governor. That's on page 6. Bello takes oath as Kogi governor. That's on page 6. CBN. This is coming from the CBN. It says government targets 66.1 billion revenue from stamp duties. That's a lot. That's on page 11. CBN government targets 66.1 billion revenue from stamp duties. That's on page 11. Supreme Court OK's WIKE Amosun Umahi. That's on page 5. Supreme Court OK's WIKE'S elections. That's on page 5. Crisis in PDP as Gulak takes over. That's on page 5. Obasanjo accuses senators, reps of reckless spendings. That's on page 3. Saraki, this is coming from the Senate President, is saying we're committed to transparency and accountability. That's on page 3 of the Nation newspaper. Next.
Yeah, I have the next paper here, which is the Daily Trust. Drama at PDP headquarters as Gulak seizes power. You find details on page 5. Bello sworn in as governor without deputy. That's in Kogi State. Obasanjo writes Saraki Dogara says National Assembly is corrupt. You find details on page 3. Arms deal, I'll talk at the right time. Jonathan says, I'll talk at the right time. You find details on page 5. You have the next paper.
Moving on to the New Telegraph newspaper, there's several headlines here again. I'm starting with that from Kogi State. It says APC leaders would face firing squad if... That's on page 7. You could get details on that story from page 7 of the New Telegraph newspaper. Falike, APC's leaders would face firing squad if. Jubilation in Rivers State as Wike floors APC. That's on page 6. Supreme Court upholds governorship elections of Amoso. That's on page 6 of the New Telegraph newspaper. I won't talk on arms deal now, says Jonathan. That's on page 7. Police dismiss officers for defiling 9-year-old girl. That's on page 8 of the New Telegraph newspaper. Senators' reps are corrupt, wasteful. That's coming from the former president of